What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Beyond the Bench podcast. Today, as you might notice, it's just me here. So it might be a little bit of a shorter episode today. Nick's not feeling too great, but we still wanted to put out a podcast for you. And I'm just gonna do the same thing I do every week. It might be a little shorter just because there's only one person putting in input. But we're going to do, as always, waiver wire, pickups, buys, and sells for the week. And this is going to be going over our week. This is going over week 6. Week 7 starts tomorrow when you see this, maybe even tonight, depending on when this goes up. But yeah, we might as well just get into it. One thing I want to say, as I always said, we'll always go over any major trades that happen in the leagues. And there's one trade that did go down this past weekend, or I think it was yesterday. And it involves Matt, who you guys saw on the podcast last week, and then another person in our league. So the trade was Matt received Brandon Ayuk, Josh Allen, and Saquon Barkley, and he really needed a quarterback. And he gave up DK Metcalf, Mike Evans, Jameson Williams, and Aaron Jones. A little bit of a lopsided trade, but I understand both sides of it. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about this. I'm curious to see what you guys think. But anyway, let's just get right into the waiver wires. So for this week, I got 5. Actually, I have 6. And they all kind of involve injuries. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of what the waiver wire is. Somebody gets injured, and you need to hop right on the waiver train and try to get one of these players. So the first person I have on here is Trey Tucker, who I believe we talked about last week. But now that Devonta Adams is officially gone, he's going to be a very good pickup. Jacoby Myers is obviously going to be the wide receiver 1. I think Brock Bowers will fit into like a wide receiver 2 type role, but Trey Tucker is going to be the actual wide receiver 2, which means he's going to be good to have on your team. He's going to get touchdowns. And I believe he already has one when Devontae wasn't playing, because he has not been playing, as we all know. So Trey Tucker, in week 4, he had 5 receptions for 41 yards, and he had a rushing touchdown. But I think he's going to, and the week before that, he had 7 receptions, 96 yards, and a touchdown on 9 targets. So I think he's going to, now that Devonta Adams is officially gone, he's going to start getting these targets again. Hopefully he can catch the ball, get some touchdowns. I think he'd be a good option to at least stash on your bench for a little while. And maybe he'll be in a more definitive role when the fantasy playoff push comes. Another guy I want to talk about is Demario Douglas, and I think that Demario Douglas is going to be a good pickup because of Drake May. Drake May looked amazing this week, and Demario Douglas had 6 receptions on 9 targets in the last 2 weeks. So even with Drake May not playing, he looked really good, and I think it's going to keep up. And they don't play a lot of good defenses coming up. They have the Jaguars, the Jets, the Titans, the Bears. So I think those are some decent defenses, but I think that Drake May is going to adapt, and I think Demario Douglas is going to be his favorite target this year. Third person I have on here is Michael Wilson with the Cardinals, simply because Marvin Harrison looks like he's going to be hurt. And Michael Wilson has looked good in these last 2 weeks. This past week, he had 2 receptions and a touchdown. The week before, he had 5 receptions for 12 points. He had 8 receptions in one game. He's looked really good this year. I think without Marvin Harrison, him sliding into that wide receiver 1 role is going to do well for him. It'll be a good 1 week fix option. If you have someone on bye this week, that's a very good option to pick up. Fourth on here, I have D'Ernest Johnson on the Jaguars. Because Travis Etienne's hurt. Him and Bigsby, it looked like they kind of split carries this past week. I don't really know what's going on there. Be careful with the Jaguars' backfield, but if you're in a pinch, D'Ernest Johnson is not a bad option. Fifth on here, I have Bo Nix. I always do this every week. If you need a quarterback replacement or something like that, I always kind of put one in here for the waiver pickup, just so you know. And I think Bo Nix is the one this week. He looked really good this past week. Let me look at his stats real quick. So Bo Nix looked really good this week. He's the quarterback 14. And he had 20 points this past week, 23 the week before, 19 week 3. He just looked really good. I won't say consistent, but against the Saints, I think he might do all right this week. And Courtland Sutton, he's looked really good with Courtland Sutton. But yeah, I think Bo Nix would be a very good option if you have quarterback on bye, quarterback that just got injured or something like that. If maybe you're trying to fill the spot of Derek Carr. Bo Nix looks like the guy to do it, at least for now. And then this last one, I kind of added last minute to this list, but Bub Means on the Saints, he looks like he's going to be the definitive wide receiver one, at least for now, with Olave being hurt, Rashid Shaheed's having surgery. And I think this guy, Bub Means, is going to be really good. And both Olave and Shaheed got hurt this week, and Bub Means filled that role pretty nicely. 5 receptions, 45 yards, and a touchdown. He had 15 points. I think Shaheed played some of the game too, so it's not like he was the wide receiver one the whole game. But I think giving him that option for the whole game, it looks like it seems like Spencer Rattler likes throwing to him. And it's a Thursday night game, so I always like to stay clear of them. But at least maybe even next week, Bub Means looks like the guy to go to, especially with all these injuries in New Orleans. Something's going to be changing down there, and I think maybe Bub Means is part of it. So now for our next section, I'm going to have as always, our buy section. And the next section will be the sells. But this week for the buys, I'm going to talk about 4 players that you could definitely get for one of them I'm not going to say for a low price, but the other 3 definitely. So Kareem Hunt's the one where it's kind of like you might have to give up a little bit for him because he looks like he's going to be the RB1 in Kansas City. And they were on bye last week, but we're going to find out this week, obviously, if he'll stay the RB1, but he looked really good. And I would get him if you can. I have him on my team. I picked him up in waivers last week, 2 weeks ago. And he's just looked really good. I think he's going to be the RB1. It seems like the Chiefs like to use these running backs. Even with that, they don't really have a good wide receiver one right now. And I think Kareem Hunt's going to pick up a lot of the slack. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. They're always going to find a way to win, and I think Kareem Hunt might be a part of that, winning. Someone else on here I have is Devon Achane. He's been injured. He hasn't looked good. But I think this bye week, maybe with Tua coming back soon, I think this team is going to pick it up a little bit. I think Achane is going to be a part of that. I think he's going to get a lot of carries. Even with Mostert there, we saw last year Achane look great with Mostert there. And I don't think that's going to change really. I think Mostert's another good option to pick up maybe this week. Because I think he might go back to his touchdown scoring. Maybe obviously not as much as last year, but I think he will get back to it. And he's going to look really good. But I think Devon Achane is someone you can buy. He's only had really 2 good weeks. But a player like that, he's not going to stay bad forever. And I think it's good to take a chance on him and try to get this running back that has not looked great this year, but has a lot of potential. Third on this list I have is Brian Thomas Jr. He played in London this week. Obviously, you don't want to take London games. It's a lot of traveling. A player can get all sorts of messed up time-wise and everything. Brian Thomas still had 6 targets this week, 3 receptions, 27 yards. Didn't do great. But he's looked like one of the best rookie receivers this year. Probably number 2 in the neighbors, maybe 3 with Harrison. But he's just looked really, really good this year. And I don't think one bad game constitutes you never wanting to use him again. So if you have him, keep him. If you don't, try and get him from maybe someone that doesn't want to keep him because, he's bad, he's a rookie, whatever. I don't think any of that's true. I think he's going to look really, really good, stay good. The last games before this bad game, 23 points, 21 points. He's looked great. He's had less than 50 yards in 3 of his games. He's had more than 50 yards in 3 of his games. This week was by far his lowest scoring week, and I think it will stay his lowest scoring week. I think he's going to be great. Christian Kirk looks weird this year. It looks like Brian Thomas is kind of moving up into that wide receiver 1 spot, and I think that will help him as well. But, yeah, like I said, if you don't have him, get him. If you have him, do not trade him. And then last in our sell section is in our buy section is Tucker Kraft. I have him on my team. I'm not going to sell him. I'm not going to sell him this week. One bad week doesn't constitute a sell. 2 receptions, 13 yards, 4 targets. But the weeks before that, he looked great. And especially with Luke Musgrave still probably going to be out. He's on the IR now. He's going to get his targets nonetheless. He's had 88 yards last game, and he had 53 the game before on a touchdown. I think he's going to stay good. I think he's going to get his receptions. I know there's a lot of wide receivers there in Green Bay, but you always need a good tight end, and I think Tucker Kraft is going to do that. He looks like he can catch touchdowns. Jordan Love seems like he's all right to pass to. So yeah, I think Tucker Kraft is going to consistently be a good tight end. If you don't have a good tight end, he's probably one of those guys that you can get pretty easily. Now, for the last section we have this week is the sell section. And once again, I have 4 players on here. And sorry, I have 3 players on here. But I have one more person for the buy section, and that is Amari Cooper. Get traded to the Bills. And I think he can go in either of these sections, depending on how you look at it, because I honestly don't know what Amari Cooper's going to do. He got traded to the Bills this weekend, and I think that could either do really well for him or not so much. It really depends on Josh Allen and how he gives his target share, because he was averaging a lot of targets in Cleveland. Just Deshaun Watson was not throwing the ball well. So I think that if he doesn't get the targets that he was getting in Cleveland, I don't think he'll be a good guy to buy. I think he'll be a good guy to sell. His stock is at an all-time high right now because of just because of this trade that just happened. And I think if you, depending on how you look at it, he could be a buy or a sell. But personally, I would say buy. So for the 3 sells we have this week, first one we have on here is Najee Harris, who is every year probably one of the most inconsistent players in fantasy. And he looked really good. He played a really good game this week, so I think this is kind of the time you want to trade him. He had 14 carries for 106 yards and a touchdown, and then 2 receptions for 16 yards. And I don't know if he's going to replicate this at all, really, this season. Especially, it could be different with Russell Wilson coming back, but I think Russell Wilson is going to try and throw the ball more than he's going to hand it off to Najee. So right now, Najee coming off a 20-point game, I would get rid of him if you can. I think it'll be pretty easy to get rid of, but it depends. I don't know what you'll be able to get back. You might be able to get back a good flex spot for him. Second on here is Jordan Mason. I know he got injured this week, but I think I said this last week too. You got to get rid of him before McCaffrey's back, which I'm trying to do right now. I sent out a trade earlier today, trying to get rid of Mason, because once again, McCaffrey comes back, Mason's stock goes way down, and you're out of a running back if you don't have McCaffrey. So I think Mason is going to be a good. I think you're going to see a lot of Jordan Mason trades coming in the coming weeks. Whether they're good or bad, I don't know how much value he's going to have the closer we get to McCaffrey's return. He doesn't have much value now because of that injury, but if you're able to get something out of him, I would try. And then last on the sell list, last player this week is Michael Pittman. And simply because Anthony Richardson's coming back, he's looked terrible this year passing the ball. And I think that all these wide receivers are going to go way downhill. Pittman, Downs, Pierce, all of them. So I think right now is a good time to trade him because Richardson, it's looking like he's going to play this week. But maybe people won't realize that and they'll take a Pittman trade. And I think Pittman is kind of the guy right now to get rid of because of this whole Richardson thing. Richardson hasn't really proved himself to be a good quarterback this year. So who really knows? Pittman did not look good with Richardson. And I think that's going to continue, at least for now, in this season. So that's kind of it, I guess, for this week. Sorry for the shorter episode. Like I said, it's just one person. It's kind of hard. You don't really have people to go back and forth with. But I tried my best. I think we were good. We got everything we needed to say out. Next week, Nick will be back. And Nick, I know you're watching this. Feel better soon because we need you next week. And yeah, so thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you next week for our Week 7 review. Peace.